I have been involved with doing things very illegal. I ultimately did, in a lot of ways, get away with it. Alright, so we're back. It's been a good little while since I've done this, so been kind of out of the habit, out of the I guess you could say the routine of doing things. A lot of things have happened. My disappearance wasn't for any reason other than the fact that I've literally had a lot of things going on, none of which are really recordable. I do have an update on some pretty serious things, and we're going to do what we have typically been doing here recently on the channel when it comes to filming. We're just going to talk, and I'm going to level with you guys. I've had a lot of things that I've been dealing with for the past decade that I feel like I need to get off my chest. One of which is I have been involved with doing things very illegal for over a decade, and as the title of this video may confirm, I ultimately did, in a lot of ways, get away with it, and I'm going to tell you exactly what that is right now. So, for the past, I guess you could say, 12 to 14 years, I have been driving without a license. And with all that being said, I know there's different mixed emotions about that. When it comes to the legality of it, yes, it is illegal. Is it a criminal offense? No, but it's still pretty serious. Putting people at risk, driving in a vehicle, you consider all of the things that go with operating a vehicle on the roadways. It's pretty serious. Now for me, the way that I justified it was, I'm gonna do everything I can to drive safely and obey all traffic laws for multiple different reasons. One of which being you don't want to alarm anyone around you enough that they call the cops. Another thing is not putting yourself in a situation where you're doing things on the road that are unsafe to hurt yourself or others. That's a bigger piece of it. And I haven't lived up to my responsibilities as an adult when driving a vehicle. The reasons why, it's very straightforward. When I was younger, I ended up getting into a lot of situations where either I was going a little bit faster than the speed limit, not doing like 80 and a 30 or anything, you know, major like that, but getting pulled over doing 10 miles over the speed limit. Cop comes up and says, do you know why I pulled you over? Well, yeah, I was speeding. Okay, you were speeding. Let me see your driver's license and your insurance. And either I didn't have insurance at the time or I didn't have a license. And what started the routine was I didn't have insurance. So not keeping up with my insurance ended up giving me tickets. Not going to court and taking care of those things on the spot or during the court date that was provided to me was an issue that would result in even more issues, even more penalties, even more things later on down the line, to the point where one of the last times I got pulled over, I ended up going to jail because I had a warrant because of unpaid tickets, because they were tickets for no insurance, no driver's license, no registration on the vehicle I was operating. They give you so many tickets when you get pulled over in that scenario that it makes it nearly impossible to get on top of it quickly without a lawyer. And I got to the point where I was just like, I'm done, I'm done. I'm not giving these people any of my money. I work hard for my money, and I'm not gonna put myself in the situation where I've got to spend all this time and energy going to find out what all I owe and paying it to get my life back together. So a couple of weeks back, I was on vacation for the entire week, and I fought tooth and nail, did all the legwork, and I'm happy to say that successfully I now have a Texas state driver's license, and it feels so amazing. I can't even tell you. Being my age and having people ask you for a driver's license, you're like, I don't have my driver's license. And of course the questions start popping up. Why don't you have a driver's license? You're in your 30s. What's going on there? You end up getting into the conversations like we just had about why, and it's embarrassing. you know, being in that situation where they know you're an adult, and you know, they see that you're doing all these things with your life, that, you know, they think, oh, well, you know, he's got a good job, he makes good money, and, you know, and then they find out you don't have a driver's license, and they're looking at you. And even friends would tell you, you know, they thought the same thing whenever I would tell them. They're like, dude, how do you not have a driver's license? You know, you work at a really good company, you make really good money, you know, you drive a vehicle that's paid for. How do you not have money to get this stuff taken care of? One of the things that Texas was really bad about for the most of the part of that decade was they would tack on surcharges if you had tickets that went into warrant status and you didn't pay them. And correct me if I'm wrong, I know somebody on the comment section is going to troll me and say, well, you said all that was wrong. If I'm not mistaken, if you had tickets that went into warrant status and you failed to pay them, and you didn't show up at the appointed court date, you would get a failure to appear fine on your record, as well as surcharges would appear. And those surcharges could be upwards of $200, $300, $400, $500. And that was one of the things that they did in 2019, was they dropped all surcharges on everyone's record 100%, whether it happened in 1998 or it happened in 2018. It got dropped. All surcharges dropped in the state of Texas, which gave me the ability to say, okay, now I'm looking at paying $1,500 compared to $2,500 or $3,500 or whatever it would have been in order to get my license back. And that's seriously where it was at. I did the legwork. I found out that a lot of the tickets that I had, which really was just 4 of them, I had 2 that were not even supposed to be on my record, that had already been taken care of by my lawyer a few years back, and I didn't do the legwork to find out. All I had to do was show up to the court. That was literally all I had to do. And they said, okay, you know, when I got there, they said, okay, here's the deal. Can you afford to pay the court fees? And I said, not right now, no. And they said, okay, fill out this document, have a seat. We'll let you know as soon as we can find something out. I was in and out of that jail, I shouldn't say that jail, that police department, for about 15 minutes. She called me back up to the window. She said, okay, the judge said, you're good. So give it 24 hours and those tickets should be off your record. I drove literally 20 minutes from there home, checked the internet, and it was off my record. The other jail, the other police department that I went to, the other courthouse, really, it wasn't even a police department, it was a courthouse. I went to courthouses. The other courthouse I went to, they said, okay, if you can pay $34 on this fine and $34 on this fine, the judge said they'll knock it off your record. They were the only 2 tickets remaining on my record, and they did it. So literally all of the insistent on doing it and procrastinating on doing the legwork, and the headache and the looking over my shoulder, and when I'm driving watching out for the cops, and when I see a cop duck off and park in a parking lot and go into a store when I know I'm not gonna buy anything, was literally for nothing. It was literally for $68 to get the tickets off of my record. And I went and got my license. I had to do 2 days worth of work to get my license back. When it comes to just the license part, I went to the DPS really early in the morning, sat in line, went up to the window knowing that there was a good chance that that day was going to be just getting information that I needed in order to get my license available to me. Sat in line for about an hour, got up to the little spot where they talk to you and they say, okay, give me your ID. The Texas State ID, basically, she ran that and she said, okay, you still have this and this that you have to take care of. She gave me all the information about the tickets, what counties they were in, and she gave me a website to go to that would show me when my driver's license would be available to be reissued to me. So I did the legwork the following day to go and take care of the courts. I got those taken off my record. 3 days later, when the second courthouse work had been cleared from my record, those other 2 tickets had been cleared. Also had to drive to a whole nother county to get my birth certificate, because I had to have my birth certificate with me to prove my identity, as well as the Texas State ID and a couple of bills, I think it was, or something of that nature, to prove my address for the DPS. I did all of that in the accompaniment of 4 days, and I had my license back. and I have insurance, and it feels amazing to finally be back to that point. I'm really excited about what this is going to do and how this is going to...
Tell them about the truck.
I hate being interrupted. I really, really hate being interrupted. Anyway, what this is going to do is this is going to give me more freedom. This is going to give me more ability to do different things. I'm opening up lanes for me to be able to go at the end of the year to possibly get a new vehicle, as well as some other exciting things that I have in my mind planned for the channel, things that I want to do that I can't do. But other than that, all of that to the side, we're going to get on to some other things. I've got some documentation that I need to get, and then I'm going to read it along with you guys. But I just realized my battery's going dead. So what we're probably going to do is we're probably going to shut this thing off, put the battery on the charger, and we'll finish all of this video up inside in the office, and we'll get it taken care of. So we'll see you in there. So basically where we left off was after getting the truck to the dealership and talking to one of the guys there behind the counter, I kind of briefly went over some of the things that we just discussed, the issues that I was having with the truck. Some of the issues that I brought up, he had no idea what to do about it. He said, you know, there were certain things that he had never heard of, like the truck not going into fifth gear, some of those things that he just wasn't sure he could give a diagnosis for. So he said basically we're going to have to get with the head technician, have them look at it, do a once over, do the 7-point inspection or whatever they call it, and get back with me. I'm going to go over some of the things that they found out after they started looking at the truck. The truck in limp during status. Engine install was done improperly and poorly, resulting in broken wires, missed connections, no map sensor reading, truck running in T-map, truck has no control of short runner valve, engine mount bolt missing, bell housing has 2 bolts holding transmission to engine. Now, think about that. The motor was not attached to the bell housing properly when they finished putting the motor into the truck. Only 2 bolts were holding the engine and the transmission together. Apparently, upon more inspection, they started looking at it and they said some of the bolts were actually broken. So I can't really say that they didn't put the hardware in. Either they over torqued the hardware or they used the old hardware and it was just already weak at that point when they put it back in the transmission bell housing. Lower radiator hose is rubbing fan shroud, heater hoses resting on exhaust. So there was like a ton of different things that I was completely unaware of that was wrong with the truck. So ultimately, what I initially wanted them to look at was the transmission not going into 5th gear, my heating and air not working, because as you know, in Texas it does get cold during the winter. It gets extremely hot during the summer. One of the things that you have to deal with is you need your defrost when it comes to getting out as early as I do, especially because it's at that peak time where the temperature begins to flux and go from highs down to lows. And when you can't get any air circulation inside the vehicle, just breathing while it's cold outside, it's cold in the truck, and your hot air, immediately windows fog up. And it was a nightmare trying to drive early in the morning to get to work. So that was one of the things that was in my criteria of things I needed them to look at to see if they could diagnose a fix for it. And ultimately, what they came back with was a long list of things that needed to be taken care of. So they went into a basic approval thing of, hey, this is what needs to be done, and these are the things that we recommend you do as a priority. So I had to do a priority list of things to take care of. We did have a recall, which was the safety recall T79, which is the brake transmission shift interlock. They did that absolutely free. They did the multi-point inspection and came up with, like I said, a long list of things that were wrong with the vehicle that needed to be taken care of. So we're kind of working on some of those things. What was completed at this point in time, they did do the front end hardware. So the lower control arms, somehow the bolts had come loose and the threads were getting stripped from the bolts. So they redid those on both sides, driver and passenger, on the front. After having done that, they noticed that my shocks were done. So they went ahead and replaced my shocks. Now this is what makes you happy when you go to a dealership that's willing to work with you. I approved them to do the driver's side shock because they said that that thing wasn't even working anymore at all. The top of the pin, the rubber bushing had come off, and the bolt, I guess you could say it's like a washer nut on the top of the rubber washer that was supposed to be there, had ultimately broken off. So the shock was literally loose inside of the housing, and it wasn't doing anything. It wasn't serving any purpose. Once they started looking at it, they said, your passenger side shock is not doing so great, because ultimately what my opinion is, it was doing 99% of the work because the driver's side shock was shot. So they said it's best to go ahead and do both. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to see if we can get you the shock at cost, which, if you're cool with that, we can actually buy the second one and we can do both of them, and it's like you're paying a 2-for-1 deal. So I gave them the go ahead on that, so they replaced both of my front shocks, and now I'm telling you, after getting the truck back and driving it, the front is so smooth. It's almost as good as it was OEM before I did the lift spindles and did all of the lift on the truck. So it feels a lot smoother on the road. They also did my alignment, and they replaced the bolts on my bell housing. They're certified technicians. They know Dodge, they know Ram, they know what they're doing. So I wanted to go the better route and take this thing to somebody that knew what they were doing, compared to just a shop on the side of the road. Like we had talked about it before in the video. Sometimes you don't know what you're getting into when you think you're getting a good deal. On the back end, what can go wrong. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are going to say, oh well, you know, I've been a mechanic for 12 years and that's not how mechanics work, and dealerships are always going to take advantage of you. At the end of the day, there are things wrong with my truck, and I know these guys are telling me the truth, because there's so many different things that I've noticed before I took the truck to them compared to what I'm noticing now after driving it. There were clanking noises. There were things that, honestly, it scares me to think of what could have happened if I'd have drove the truck one more time back and forth to work. It was in a lot worse shape than I thought it was. The truck rides smooth. The shocks are great. The transmission, basically their thought process is, if we can get the wiring harness done, you may possibly get multiple things back that you have not had, like your cruise control, like your fifth gear. Once we get the map sensor reading, get it basically out of limp mode, I should get the fifth gear back. Possibly the wiring harness is why you're in limp mode. The computer is all wonky. It doesn't know what's going on. So basically it's like, yeah, fix me. So that's what we're planning to do. Yeah, so everything as far as the ride is great now. The front suspension is a lot better. Unfortunately, there is still a little bit of work left to be done on that. They said that the tie rod has too much play in it, so there's only so much they can do. They can't adjust the toe, but they did do the alignment to the best of what they could do without getting the toe 100%. They set the camber and the caster and the toe. Steering rack has lots of play on inner tie rod side, so toe is not able to be set perfect. He misspelled perfect, but I'm not gonna challenge him on that. Will require replacement. So basically, I've got to work on my steering rack. That was $100 just to do that, to do the alignment and adjust and basically look at why my toe couldn't be done 100%. It's a lot. It's a lot. There's a lot of money that still needs to be paid to get everything else done, but for the most part, we're working in the right direction. I know that a lot of people are going to say, man, like, I feel like you're getting screwed. You have to judge not just the work being done, but you have to judge the character of which the people that you're dealing with have. And I don't feel like they're just trying to get my money in this situation, because I did kind of explain a little bit over the phone, you know, what my views are. Something that I feel with them, they're really trying to keep me on board with working with them. I also spoke a little bit about, you know, at the end of the year, I want to be in here looking at something. So, you know, maybe that's something that they're like, okay, you know, this guy's looking to be a full-time dedicated customer. We've got to take care of him. And they really have, and they're ready to do the rest of the work. Obviously, you know, they want that money, but, you know, they also, they've worked with me on some things, and I think that's a big piece of it. So yeah, ultimately that's kind of where we're at with that. I think that's really all I wanted to go over with you guys. I did want to explain some of the things that have been going on with outside of YouTube, not being able to film, but ultimately it's kind of going back to the whole thing that we talked about in one of the last videos. Is I can sit here and I can tell you that you know, there's no excuse, you know, there's things going on, and I've got this and I've got that, but ultimately, guys, I know you're not going to sit and watch a 15-minute video of me talking about work. I don't do anything so exciting that it should be broadcast on YouTube. I'm not able to film where I work. I'm not able to talk about some of the things that we do, just because that's confidentiality within the company. I signed papers saying that I wouldn't film. I signed papers that there are certain things that go on within the compounds of our facility that the competitor could get a hold of, and it's just not proper business etiquette. So those are things that I can't discuss. I go to work at 1 o'clock in the morning. I can't film in my vehicle while I'm driving to work at 1 o'clock in the morning. Coming home, it's literally a 10 to 15 minute drive, but at that point there's nothing to talk about. Like, it's been a stressful day or it's been a great day. It doesn't really matter. There's really not a lot to discuss. I've really just been working and focused on trying to get certain aspects of my life back together again. Like the beginning of the video, talking about doing the driver's license thing. That was a big piece of my life that was missing. So now I'm finally getting back on track, and I'm taking care of my grown man business. And I think that's something that I want you guys to be proud of me about, because I'm proud of me about that. There's still some things left for me to do that I know I need to work on, and I'm going to work on that. But what I do want is for the, I think, 127 people that are still subscribed to my channel, stay involved. Keep watching out for videos. Don't unsubscribe just because you don't see a video. It's just my life is not very interesting right now. I don't have enough money to do the things that I want to do with the channel, and I'm hoping for that to change once I get a lot of this stuff paid off that I have against me right now, because I did go through a lot of charging on the credit card and picking up a loan here and doing a loan there, and let's face it, a whole house loan that had to be covered. There's a lot of things that are cutting into my budget right now as far as what I want to do with you guys. But once I start to get all of this stuff paid off and start to kind of work towards something else toward the end of the year, I think you know where I'm going with this, you're going to see a lot more content. And that's my focus. I want a better schedule at work so that I have more daytime life, because as of now I get home at 11:30, 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and I need to be in bed by 3 or 4 because I have to be up at midnight. So it's complicated. While the rest of the world is living their life and spending time with their kids and their families and eating dinner with their wives or their husbands or their children or whatever have you, I'm in bed preparing for the next day of work. I work Sunday through Thursday, so literally Saturday I'm cutting my day in half so that I can start work for the next day, or I should say start preparing for work for the next day. It makes it a lot more difficult to do this piece of it than maybe other YouTubers can do while juggling a full-time job. But all of that being said, we're going to get the truck taken care of. We're going to get the channel started back up as soon as we possibly can. Just look for these intermittent videos every now and then, just kind of updating you guys. And I hope that the conversations and the talk doesn't wear you out, because I don't want you guys, every time you log in, I'm going to watch another video of him talking about random stuff or things that don't pertain to doing what he said he was going to do. That's not the plan, and I want you guys to know we're working very hard to get back to that. So, that being said, make sure you guys keep your chin up, and we'll see you in the next video.